learn today, Mitzvah Shem, Siman Tov Kuf Chaf Zayin, the Siman of Erev Tavshilin. The reason I'm going to start with it is if we get through it, Be'ez Hashem, so then I'll end off with the parts of Bishul that we didn't finish yesterday. But the truth is that here we have to do a Gemara Davar Be'ez Hashem, and it could be it'll take the whole shir, and then tomorrow we have to spend the whole time in Siman Tov Tzadi Dalid, which is Hilchos Shavuos. So therefore, the Be'ez Hashem, whatever we didn't do yet in Hilchos Bishul, Mitzvah Hashem, after Shavuos, we'll anyways have more Siyata D'Shmaya, because we'll have been Makabel the Torah again, the 3,332nd time, and then we'll be able to understand Bishul even better. But to go into Yontif without the understanding of Erev Tavshilin, so that would be tragic. So let's start Be'ez Hashem. If there's time today at the end and I get through Erev Tavshilin, so then I don't plan on starting Tov Tzadi Dalid, and then I would finish up those parts of Sif Test. If not, Mitzvah Hashem, we'll do it on Sunday, Mitzvah Hashem. The Shulchan Aruch in Siman Tov Kuf Chav Zayin, this year it's Negeya, everyone in Klal Yisrael, Bein in Eretz Yisrael, Bein in America, Bein in even in England and other planets like Australia and whatever. It's Negeya everywhere in the world that they have to do an Erev Tavshilin. And it's a rare occasion in Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael doesn't get an Erev Tavshilin even Kimat every year. In Eretz Yisrael this year, it's a mitzvah Yikara. It's a mitzvah that you find that Avram Avinu, the Gemara in Yuma Dav Kav Ches says that Avram Avinu was Mekayim Kol Torah Kula, even Erev Tavshilin, according to some Girsayis. So therefore, it's a mitzvah Yikara, and it's also a Gishmak Limit, and also it has a little bit connection to what we're learning in Bishul, Klape, the Inyanim of Michael Ben Drusai, and different Inyanim. So Be'ez Hashem, it's taka somewhat of our Shlomas HaInyan, and hopefully Be'ez Hashem will get the halachas clear. Let me give a little background, and then what I plan on doing is going sif by sif through these 24 seifim. And like always, each person who on his own, if he gets a chance to learn these inyanim, so we're somewhat, I'll say to Shulchan Aruch, and somewhat I'll say to Mishnah Berurah. There is certainly a lot of literature over here. I'll ask Rabbi Slansky to please send out afterward, I suppose, what we wrote up in the previous years, Be'ez Hashem, and maybe there'll be even Isafis, or maybe there'll even be Chazaris, who knows. But Akapanim, the Shulchan Aruch tells us a Yom Tiv Shechal Yos Be'erev Shabbos, which we're Zeicha to Taka this week. Le'yivashal b'tchila l'tzarech Shabbos. You're not allowed to cook l'tzarech Shabbos. Or b'keder b'fnei atzmai. Aval mivashal ukam k'deres l'Yom Tiv. It seems that if he didn't make this Erev, so what would be the Eitzah? The Eitzah would be he could cook, and he could cook extra food for the Yom Tiv. In other words, let's say Friday morning he would cook extra food for what he needs for the Yom Tiv Suda, but he can't go and cook just for Shabbos. And if he would cook for the Yom Tiv Suda and he would cook extra, the Hainu, he would put inside his meat for Yom Tiv, he would put in a bigger piece of meat or more pieces of meat, et cetera, et cetera. So whatever's extra, he would be allowed to use for the Shabbos Suda. But that's all, of course, not so practical. So says the Shulchan Aruch, the Erev mevashal betchila l'Shabbos. An Erev affords you the right, the efsharius, to go and cook for Shabbos, even on Yom Tiv. This Friday, you'll be allowed to cook on Friday for Shabbos. Pirish in your Erev, what's Erev? Yivashal the Yoifam Yom Tiv l'Shabbos. You'll cook and bake on Friday, on Yom Tiv for Shabbos. If Akapanim, you did something which we'll talk about obviously in a moment, L'Shem Shabbos, and it's nimsa that you didn't start on Yom Tiv, but you started already on Erev Yom Tiv. And then it says that a person could even put an Erev on Savei Chashecha. So let's go now, give a little bit of background to the Inyanim, and then Be'ez Hashem will go sif by sif and try to get through all the various halachas of this Regishmak and Mitzvah Yikara. The Shulchan Aruch over here tells us about the Erev Tavshilin. What is the Erev Tavshilin? This is a Takanas Chachamim, that there seems to be two shitas in the Gemara. There's the shita of Rabbi and the shita of Reb Chizda. This is the Gemara Pesachim and Daf Mem Vavam and Beis. The Gemara brings down over there a very big machlekes. Are you allowed to cook from Yom Tiv to Shabbos? We all know that you can't cook, number one, from Yom Tiv to Chayil. Number two, you can't cook from Yom Tiv Aleph, Yom Rishon of Yom Tiv, to Yom Tiv Sheni, Yom Beis. It's interesting. This is halacha that many Israelis don't know. There are many Israelis because they never had a Yom Tiv Sheni. The most they had is maybe on Rosh Hashanah they have a Yom Tiv Sheni. And there are many Israelis that think that there's a way of cooking from Yom Tiv Rishon for some other day. So we know that that's not true. The only potential is cooking from a Yom Tiv to a Shabbos. but you can never cook from a yontif to yontif sheni, and you can never cook from a yontif to a weekday. The only potential is cooking from a yontif to a Shabbos. However, the Gemara brings down, are you allowed to cook from yontif to Shabbos? Because we know that you can't cook from yontif to yontif sheni, and you can't cook from yontif to chayil. Can you cook from yontif to Shabbos? So this is a machlekes. What do I mean it's a machlekes? The sheet of Rabbi is that you cannot cook from yontif to Shabbos. You can't cook from yontif to chayil. You can't cook from yontif to a weekday. You can't cook from yontif to yontif sheni, and you can't even cook from yontif to Shabbos. However, there's a loch of hoyel. Hoyel means that since there's a potential that I might actually need the food because of guests, because of orchim, so therefore, technically, there's a way to cook from yontif to Shabbos. How can I cook from yontif to Shabbos? Technically, if I would do it just for that intention, that would be a problem. You wouldn't be allowed to be cooking just from yontif to Shabbos because sorchei Shabbos are not done on yontif. However, since there's a concept of hoyel, there's a potential that guests might come. So therefore, every time I cook on yontif, even if my intention is for Shabbos, but in the ultimate Maisa, it's something that theoretically can be moyel for guests. And therefore, we don't look at this, we don't view this as a cooking from yontif purely for Shabbos, since there's always the potential that a guest might show up. We'll see, Pri Megadim is mistopic. What if you're living in a desert island or something? But since there's a concept that a guest might show up, so Rabbi says, theoretically, min haTorah, you can cook from yontif even to Shabbos. Hagam, normally you're not allowed, but since there's the potential of a guest, so therefore, very good. Corona. Taka, do you have a hoyel during Corona? That's a very interesting shaila. That's a very, very interesting shaila Rabbi Lieberman just posed. You have a person who's probably more negay on Pesach, I think, when people were taking Corona much more seriously, and you have a situation of where, the person was nebuch by themselves. I don't think there was an Erev Tafshilin situation then. But let's say you have a case, no one's coming and you're not accepting. You have a sign on the door that says Corona, no one allowed in. Meaning I don't have Corona and I don't want it. So therefore no one's coming in. So in such a case, it's a very good question. You might not have a hoyel. This is a suffix of the Pri Megadim. It's such an interesting shaila that I have to really think about it. I would like to, hopefully by the end of this year, I'll have had time to think about it. But Al Kapanim, so it comes out like this. It was even the guy in, thank you, Rabbi say. I didn't remember. But Al Kapanim, it seems to be, let's say first what the halach is, Rabbi said. Then Bez Hashem will down all the interesting cases. But Al Kapanim, if you're cooking on yontif for Shabbos, Rabbi says theoretically that's also. But the reason why it's mutter is because it's not for Shabbos. When a person cooks on yontif, since there's the potential of guests, so therefore that potential of guests makes it that the food always might be eaten on yontif, and therefore it's not called cooking from yontif to Shabbos. It's called cooking from yontif to yontif. That's the sheet of Rabbi. However, says Rabbi, even though that's true min haTorah, that when I cook on yontif, it's mutter because hoyel it might be for yontif. However, Chazal still answered it. We'll see why soon, but Chazal still answered it. And since the Chazal answered it, we now have to matter it with what's called an Erev Tafshilin. I know you're not be'etzim min haTorah usher to cook from yontif to Shabbos because hoyel orchen might come. Therefore, it's called you're cooking for yontif to yontif. However, since the Chazal came along and answered it, Chazal said you can't cook from yontif to Shabbos for reasons that we'll see in a moment. I'm going in this order to make it simpler. But now in order to matter the deraisa, we have hoyel. To matter the derabanan, we have this new advent called the Erev Tafshilin, which we'll talk about in a moment, that you put down the egg, you put down the matzah, whatever it is, and then you matter that isser, which Mitzvah Hashem will explain. That's the shita of Rabbi in the Gemara Pesachim Daf Mem Vav. The shita of Reb Chizda is not like that. Reb Chizda holds you are allowed, yes, to cook from yontif to Shabbos, at least from yontif shein, from the yontif, which is samech to Shabbos. In other words, if Friday is yontif, you're allowed to cook from Friday, yontif to Shabbos. You are allowed min haTorah. You're not allowed to cook from yontif to the weekday, and you're not allowed to cook from yontif aleph to yontif beis, but you are allowed to cook from yontif to Shabbos. Tzorchei Shabbos are yes nasa on. Tzorchei Shabbos are yes nasa on yontif. But what? Chazal came along and answered, which in Mitzvah Hashem we'll see why in a moment they answered. That's not necessarily totally in Rabbi and Rav Chizda. Both Rabbi and Rav Chizda say that Chazal came along and answered. Now we have to see exactly why Chazal answered, but Chazal came along and answered. Now that Chazal answered, we need the Erev Tafshilin to matter. Now, what's the difference if you say like Rabbi or you say like Rav Chizda? Says the Mishabur over here in Sivkot and Gimel, a very, very tremendous nafkamina. The nafkamina is the first way I said it, the really, really bad mitzvah, you're not allowed to cook from Yom Tov to Shabbos. The only reason you're allowed to cook is because we say hoyel. Hoyel means that since there's the potential that guests might come, that's called it's being cooked for Yom Tov itself. That's the Shita of Rabbi. According to Rabbi Isai, you can't start cooking, let's say Yom Tov over here, I think is close to like, Shabbos is close to like 7:40 or 7:45 or something like that, a Shkia. You can't start cooking at 7:30, according to Rabbi, because then you have the deraisa problem. According to Rabbi, the only reason I let you cook on Yom Tov to Shabbos, Minat Torah, is because there's a potential that guests might show up. Since there's a potential that guests might show up, I allowed you to cook. Rabbi say, if you're going to cook at 7:40, 7:35, it's impossible that guests can show up because the food won't be ready for Yom Tov. So therefore, according to Rabbi, the heter Minat Torah requires you to cook much earlier. You have to make sure that the food is potentially ready on Yom Tov. So according to Rabbi, you're only allowed to cook, even with your Erev Tavshilin, you have to worry about the deraisa. You're only allowed to cook from a time when it's going to be ready. Now, what time is it going to be ready? We'll see soon. Is it enough ready, Michael Ben Drusai? Is it enough ready, once people would theoretically be'emes eat it, not just when some ganef would eat it? That we'll have to see. But that's the shita of Rabbi. According to Rav Chizda, it's not true. You're allowed to cook on Yom Tov for Shabbos, Minat Torah. Just as some Rabbanan that you have to take care of with Erev Tavshila. According to Reb Chizda, you could start the cooking process 7:40, 7:35, right before Shkia. You could start the cooking process because Minat Torah, you're allowed to cook from Yom Tov to Shabbos. The Rabbanan issue, so that we're going to have an Erev Tavshilin. So this is a tremendous, tremendous machlekes. Allah l'maisa. On this specific machlekes, the Mishabura says, as you've got in Gimel, you must make sure that the food is cooked early enough that guests can eat it and guests can enjoy it. The Maisa comes along the Aruch HaShulchan, and it's you've got in Gimel over here. He says, the Maisa, what should I tell you? The Minig Olam is not like this. The Minig Olam is that people, they cook. Once they have the Erev Tavshilin, obviously without an Erev Tavshilin, nothing starts because of the Rabbanan issue. But Akapanim, once they have an Erev Tavshilin, the people start cooking even 7:30, even late, that there's no way that a guest is able to partake in it. So what's the limit chus? So the Iker limit chus is that the Iker is like the Shitas HaRambam, which is like Reb Chizda, that the Rambam paskins like Reb Chizda, and that Sorchei Shabbos are Nasa on Yom Tov, and that you're allowed to cook on Yom Tov for Shabbos. And therefore, if you're allowed to cook on Yom Tov Minat Torah for Shabbos, so therefore you can start up the cooking at 7:30, so long as you have an Erev Tavshilin. That, says the Aruch HaShulchan, is the Ikra Shita. The Mishabura himself, he says that Lamaisa b'shas chak, you could be mekel. B'shas chak, you could be mekel. The Mishabura says, Lechatchila, the Mishabura says you should certainly be zoyer and not to cook right before Shabbos, because the Mogen Avram and the Graz, they were very, very, very misnaged to this based on the Rishonim. The Mogen Avram and the Graz held that we hold like Rabba, and that we're chayshish for the sheet of Rabba. And therefore, if a person, whatever happened, he fell asleep and he didn't wake up until 10 minutes before Shabbos, no, would we let him be saimich on the sheet of Reb Chizda? Mistama, we would let him be saimich on the sheet of Reb Chizda. But upon him to do it, l'chatchila, is certainly aser, and he should certainly try to have it edible. In other words, he has to at least make sure that the food is at least a Michael Ben Drusai. So let's say he wakes up by 7 o'clock. No, if he could at least cook it so that by the time 7:40, I'm talking about the times in Eretz Yisrael. If at least he can cook it, that by 7:40, which is Shkia, it'll be ready at least a Michael Ben Drusai. And the Mishabur over here is Mekel that the Michael Ben Drusai at least could be 1/3 cooked. No, so then how divide that? But upon him, certainly it's not l'chatchila, and a person l'chatchila has to make sure that it's fully cooked and fully edible by the time that Shabbos comes in. This is the Kedamas Advarim. The Aruch HaShulchan does say that the Minig Olam is to be mekel on this, but l'maisa, our Rebbe, the Mishabura, is certainly not so happy about this. Mishabura says, b'shas chak, it could be mekel on Yom Tov Sheni, This year it doesn't work out like that. It worked out on Pesach like that. But then when you have Thursday, Friday, and Friday's on Tisheni, that's much more kulidik. And like I mentioned, at least it should at least be to the point of the Michael ben Yusai. If a person asks me if it means that or not having hot food, etc., no, obviously the bima can be makel like the limit schos of the Aruch HaShulchan, but it's certainly not the this is not the roidik anhaga. So that's number one. That's the Indian of the deraisa. Mitzad the Rabbanon, the Gemara brings down in Beya on Tezvavim and Beis. A machlekes, what was the reason why Chazal came along and answered? If minat Torah already it was mutter, either because of Rabbi or because of Reb Chizda. So why, Rabbi Wolf, did the Rabbanan come along and have to cause this trouble? Why did they have to cause trouble? We had already that it was mutter min Torah. So why did the Rabbanan come along and cause this trouble? So there's a machlekes between Rav Ashi and Rava, not Rabba, Rava. Rava says the reason is for kavod Shabbos. Rav Ashi says the reason is because kavod Yontif. What does that mean in a nutshell? It's one of these difficult Gemaras. I'll just tell you, Pashup Shat, what's Negayos, is a Gemara. That Rava's reason is because of kavod Shabbos. Because we're afraid that if a person is not going to set aside cooking and thinking about Shabbos already on Erev Yontif, so then we're afraid he's going to use up all the food for Yontif, and he's not going to think about Shabbos. He's just going to have leftovers for Shabbos. So therefore, we want already on Erev Yontif, you be thinking about Shabbos. You already be thinking. So if he goes and he sets aside food for that he knows he's going to have to leave over for Shabbos, so then we know he's not going to forget about Shabbos, and he's going to make sure he cooks something nice for Shabbos on Yontif. So they wanted to make sure he's going to have respect for the Shabbos. That's one mahalach. The other mahalach is Rav Ashi. He says, no, it's because of Yontif. We want to have a covered for the Yontif. What does it mean, a covered for the Yontif? It's that we're afraid for Keret. If the person sees that we start cooking from Yontif to Shabbos, so he's going to say, I can cook from Yontif to Shabbos. So I guess you're allowed to cook from Yontif to the weekday. I guess you're just allowed to cook on Yontif in general. And we're going to come to have a bezoin of Yontif. So we tell them, no. You're not allowed to cook from Yontif to Shabbos. Meaning you're not allowed to cook from Yontif for other things. Right? You're allowed to if you already started the cooking process. That way it'll remind the person, no. It's not for just anything. It's because Shabbos is coming. What's the nafkamina? If you go like that, you go like that. The ikar nafkamina that the Shainim say, which is based on a Shulchan Aruch later on, is going to be, there's also a very big machlekes, but the ikar nafkamina that Shulchan Aruch brings later on in Sif Yudalid is going to be, what if you have an Erev and you want to make the Erev not before Yontif? You want to set up there today. You're listening to a share in Erev Tafshilin, and you say, you know what, like, why don't I just put the Erev down right now, and then I don't have to worry about it? Or what if I put the Erev from last Yontif and I just leave it for the next Yontif, etc.? It's just an egg anyways and a matzah, so just leave it or whatever. So then if you're going to learn that the reason is, Lefi Rava, that the reason why you're doing it is because of kavod Shabbos, so then you got to be doing it dafka on Erev Yontif, because otherwise you're again going to come to forget Shabbos. Mashenkein, if the reason is because it's a reminder that don't cook on Yontif for weekday, so then it could be it works ahead of time. It'll work even ahead of time, so long as it's existent. This Rabbi Say will come to when we get to the halacha, but this, in a nutshell, is the takana of Erev Tafshila. Now you have the deraisa, and now you have the derabanan. But basically, that's the Yisai. We have to get out of the deraisa of cooking from Yontif to Shabbos, and then we have to get out of the new takana that Chazal made, that even if we deraisa, you're okay, they still answered not cooking from Yontif to Shabbos because of kavod Shabbos, because of kavod Yontif. On that Rabbanan, it works in Erev Tafshila. That's Adkan, the Sugis HaGemara, and the Sugis HaDah. Now, Bez Hashem, with this Hakdama, we'll start the Siman. The first shaila, I think, and foremost shaila is there a mitzvah to do in Erev Tafshilin? Well, what's enough Gemina? Versteht if a person's going to cook on Yontif, he's going to make an Erev Tafshilin. But sometimes you have a Jew, he says, I want to enjoy the shuas. I want to be able to, learn the whole night. And his wife wants to be able to the whole day, not, she's not learning the whole night unless she's something weird, but but she wants to be able to make sure that the kids are quiet. And then in the daytime, she's going to have to watch the kids. She's not going to have time, and her husband's going to be schluffing away, darting, right? So now she wants to know, I just want to cook everything before Yontif. and I'm not going to be cooking on Yontif for Shabbos either. So is there a mitzvah to make an Erev Tavshilin? And I'll say it more. Are you allowed to make an Erev Tavshilin if you don't plan on cooking? Is an Erev Tavshilin our side like, can I just go to the sink, wash Netilas Yadayim, say Shek Rishonim Mitzvahs of Sivan on Netilas Yadayim, and not eat bread? My hands are now right for bread. It's the same thing with Erev Tavshilin. Can I just go and make an Erev Tavshilin? And now it affords me the afsharius to cook on Yontif. The fact that I don't plan on cooking on Yontif, that's my prerogative, but I'll still get the mitzvah there of Tavshilin. That's an interesting shaila. Lemaisa, it's very interesting when you learn through Shulchan Aruch after hearing, and of course the nafkamina, like Rabbi Slansky, if you actually hold to this, does it mean with a bracha, now with a bracha? Meaning Rabbi say, to put down an Erev Tavshilin without a bracha, anybody could do. Mutalach, mutalach, mutalach. The question is, this svara that I'm saying now, would you even be allowed to go and make a bracha based on this? So this is a shaila that very, very famous with Moshe Sternbach in a few places. One of them is Mayadim and Zmanim in the 7th volume in Kuf Chav Zayin discusses. But Moshe Sternbach is of the opinion very strong that Erev Tavshilin is a mitzvah and it's a matir and you have a right to do it and to give yourself that afsharius, even if you don't plan on even making putting on food on the blech or anything. It's a matir, it's a mitzvah. You have a right to do it with a bracha, and even if you don't plan on using it. Now, that's his shita. I must tell you that there are rayas, and the oilam is asking me questions like Adlakas Neres. I'm going to obviously get to this. There are rayas throughout the siman, at least from the Paiskim, that it doesn't seem to be that is true. What do I mean it doesn't seem to be that's true? Like the oilam is asking already, there's a whole nidain. One of the most beautiful parts of Erev Yontif is that all of Klal Yisrael is going to be remembering Shragi Kallus. How's it shaykh that everyone on Erev Yontif is going to be remembering Shragi Kallus? Because you're going to be making an Erev Tavshilin, and you're all going to be saying Ladluke Shraga. And Adluke Shraga, it's important that you understand the Erev Tavshilin, according to some shitas, you're not Yaitse. And therefore, it doesn't mean to ignite Shragi. What it means is to light candles. I'm asking permission, Kivyachol, with the Erev Tavshilin, that I should be allowed to do from malachas from Yontif for the Shabbos with this Erev Tavshilin. One of the examples is Lafuye, Bishul, which we've been learning the whole time. And one of them is Ladluke Shraga. So it's very important. You have to tell this to your wives. It doesn't mean callous. It means that you're going to be allowed to light the candles on Erev Yontif for Shabbos. So there's a very big need in over here. It sounds like in the nusach that we say in the Erev Tavshilin that I need an Erev Tavshilin, not just for cooking purposes. I even need it for something that we would have thought is a total hutra, like lighting candles. It seems to be that even for lighting candles, you need to have an Erev Tavshilin. That's what it sounds like in the nusach. But Rabbi said there's such a big fight in the Paiskim. If the only thing that you're doing for Yontif is lighting candles, does that warrant making an Erev Tavshilin or not making an Erev Tavshilin? Some Rishonim say you don't need an Erev Tavshilin if it's just for candles, because candles is something that was mutter on Yontif for Shabbos. And some say, no, of course you need an Erev Tavshilin. And it's a big fight back and forth. And it's hard for us to understand once you have Rabbi Moshe Sternbach that tells us we could always just make an Erev Tavshilin even with the bracha. So then who cares? Just make an Erev Tavshilin. And you see that the Paiskim are very nervous about this. And they're very scared about this. It does seem to be that the mashmoyas of the Paiskim is that you can only make an Erev Tavshilin if you're going to be using it for some type of cooking, which I'll explain in a moment, or some type of a malacha that you're going to be doing from, whether it's a Daraban or Daraisa, but some type of a malacha that you're going to be doing from Friday to Shabbos. And Ad Kedei Kach, it could be if the only thing you're doing is lighting candles, that might not be enough. Now, to make this practical, I, Lemaisa, once asked this shaila to Rav Elyashiv, and Rav Elyashiv held that Yitaka shouldn't make an Erev Tavshilin unless you plan on, with a bracha. I mean, without a bracha, you can do what you want, but with a bracha, you can't make an Erev Tavshilin unless you plan on doing something of preparation, chutz from candle lighting, from Yom Tov to Shabbos. But Rav Elyashiv said, but don't forget, that includes even Drabanans. What do I mean, Rabbi Isai? That means everyone, at least if you're by yourself, we'll see soon if you're together with family, how many Erev Tavshilins to make, etc. Kimat everyone in Klal Yisrael, Rabbi Isai, really is going to be making an Erev Tavshilin. Why? Because let's say you cooked all the food before Yom Tov. You went and you cooked all the food on Erev Yom Tov for Shabbos and Yom Tov. Okay, but now Friday afternoon, you want to put onto the hot plate the chicken soup. You want to put the meat, this, that, which you're doing for tonight. Now, Grata, how are you allowed to do that? If you're doing it, you're being meichen for tonight. What do you mean? I made an Erev Tavshilin. You're true you wouldn't be able to do that from Yontif Aleph to Yontif Beis, but when I go and I make an Erev Tavshilin makes it that Friday going into Shabbos is a continuum. It's a continuous and it's mutter. So the Memela, even though all I'm doing is the Rabbanans, what the Rabbanans? I'm doing Chazara, I'm doing Shehiyah Lechatchila, I'm taking food which is a liquid, a cholent that the chesnisht was cooked already, but the liquid is already now cooled down, and that might be a shiloh of their ice, etc. So once you're going to be heating up food on Yontif for Shabbos, for sure you make an Erev Tavshil, even if the only things you're doing is the Rabbanan. So therefore, basically, if you have somebody, which we'll see soon, who's eating by their parents and their mamish doing nothing at all, so then that would be where the shaila is. Their mamish doing absolutely nothing. They're going to they're let's say sleeping at home and eating by their parents. I say sleeping at home because if they're sleeping by their parents, we'll see soon, they might be included in the parents' Erev Tavshilin. But if they're sleeping at home and they're doing absolutely nothing, and the only thing they're doing is Adlakas Neris, so then that becomes a very big shaila. Rabbi Sternbach seems to say you could make an Erev Tavshilin, and Rabbi Yashiv said you can't. But if you're by yourself and you cook everything before Yontif, then Kimat always you'll be making an Erev Tavshilin with a bracha, because you'll always be doing at least the Rabbanans of Shehiyah, of Chazara, etc., all for the purpose of Leil Shabbos, from Yontif to Leil Shabbos. So the Chayra, now Rabbi Rosenberg is asking me here, should they just boil an egg? He means it's a couple that's staying at home, and why shouldn't they just, why shouldn't they? The truth is, I don't really have a problem with that. There's nothing wrong with deciding I want to just get, it's not called cooking for no reason, Rabbi Slansky, because they're going to eat the egg. They're going to, obviously it means that they're going to, then they're going to mash it up and they're going to make it into eggs, how to put in some onions and right? Somebody that's wrote make a tea is not really going to work, because when are you making a tea for? It's a little bit weird. You're making a tea on Friday for Shabbos. It's a little bit strange, right? Maybe tea scents, yeah, maybe interesting. That's an interesting idea. You make some tea scents, not bad. It's not an interesting idea. Slansky just said, why don't I just make an Erev Tavshilin and an Erev Yontif? And it's a normal thing that a couple's going to want to have a tea. That much is a very normal thing. Even when they come home, they're going to want to have a tea. Especially my wife, who is English. Now, Rabbi Ratchkin wrote about intense coffee, but that must be a mistake, because really you're allowed to make it. We said on Shabbos in a Kli Shlishi, he means that if you wanted the covered rafalk, right? So, but I hear, but yesh ladin b'zeh, and don't cause trouble. Akopanim is Rabbi say that's number one. Number two. Okay. Now, Rabbi say, I must tell you that Reb Nissen Karelitz doesn't go like I said. He seems to say that for the Rabbanans, it's not enough to put down an Erev Tavshilin. I only told you what I heard from the Melech of Klal Yisrael, that even for the Rabbanans, you do put down an Erev Tavshilin with the bracha. And the truth is, when you learn the Mishabura, there are mashmoisim like that, but unfortunately, we don't have time. Next, we saw in the Helik Ramah that the Ramah brings down if a person forgot to put an Erev Tavshilin. We'll get to if he forgot Legamrei in a moment, but if he forgot to put down an Erev Tavshilin, so then he's allowed to put it down even during Ben Hashmashis and even with a bracha. However, obviously this is not lechatchila. Lechatchila is supposed to put down the Erev Tavshilin before Ben Hashmashis. I think everybody on their own would realize that. Well, how late can we let a person put down an Erev Tavshilin? To what point are we going to say he's allowed to put down the Erev Tavshilin? So this is an old fight. Everybody say, if you have somebody who's makban Rabbeinu Tam, we're obviously going to be more liberal. If you have somebody who doesn't goyrus Rabbeinu Tam, we're obviously going to be less liberal. In Eretz Yisrael, we're probably not going to allow more than 13 and a half minutes, right? I don't think, Rabbi Tokeyer, that Lakewood is considered Eretz Yisrael. So I don't, Ad Kedei Kach, you might not be agamitz of Sahel Kamakim, but I don't think you're going to have the chumras of Eretz Yisrael, and therefore you guys would have more of a kula. But again, Rabbi say, if you're someone in America that keeps, 30 minutes or whatever, and then boom, you're ready. It's already Motzei Shabbos by you. So I'm not going to give an exact time. Certainly till 13 and a half minutes of Ada, you're going to have somewhat of a leeway. But after 13 and a half minutes, the kids are, don't forget, make an Erev Tashilin. Put up the sign now already. Everybody right now, I see you guys in the middle of Shir. You guys do a lot of things, right? A lot of things. Sometimes you accidentally put the video back on when you're still in the middle of doing those things, Rabbi. And you guys do a lot of things. So one of the things you could do now, I give you a shush in the middle of Shir, is take a piece of paper, right? And write on the piece of paper, Rabbi Rosenberg, Erev Tavshilin. I know, Shalom Gottman's going to tell me I'm driving, as if when he drives, he doesn't do other things, right? So in the meantime, Rabbi Isai, tell Alexis, whatever her name is, the Shiksa, that Erev Tavshilin, so that we don't have any issues. Rabbi Slansky, when the email goes out for the Shir on Thursday, he's going to write, thank you, Danny Katzman, exactly. The email is going to say Erev Tavshilin, because you can't be Saimach on Rabbi Kallus' Erev Tavshilin, because we'll see in a minute that it only works the Rav in the ear that you can get to the Erev. But you guys are outside my Tchum, and since you're outside my Tchum, so it's true for Yaakov Lang, he'll be able, if he forgets, to be Saimach on my Erev Tavshilin, right? And it's true that Rabbi Greenhouse, who is now out of Bidud, right? I don't remember. He's going to be able to be Saimach on my Erev Tavshilin. But Lamaitza Levi Markowitz is in a different galaxy, Pasha. So he won't be able to Saimach on my Erev Tavshilin. And certainly Rabbi Takei, who only joined us right now, will not be able to Saimach on my Erev Tavshilin. But we'll get there, Bez Hashem. Now, is a few interesting shilas. Somebody asked me very interesting. You're right, Rabbi Isai. There was an Erev Tavshilin in Pesach. Because now I remember I got an interesting shilah, which I remember. I think I got it then, or maybe it was Sukkot. I guess since I've been in my house for the last 8 weeks, it has been one big bubble of time. I can't remember anymore where I am. But Al Kapanim, some of the recent most Erev Tavshilin, I think it was Pesach. Somebody asked me an interesting shaila. He asked me, it's like a Geshmak shaila. It's like a Geshmak shaila. No, see, should I tell him the shaila? You want to tell him the shaila? I should tell him? I'll tell him. That he wanted to know that he put on the food, on the blech, on Friday for Shabbos, right? And Derech Agav, Rabbi Isai, and don't forget this for the rest of your life. We are matter in Erev Tavshilin from Yontif Friday to Shabbos, not from Thursday to Shabbos. In other words, if Yontif is Thursday, Friday, Shabbos, you can't start cooking from Thursday to Shabbos. Erev Tavshilin only works from Friday to Shabbos. The reason I say that very slowly is not because the internet line is bad. It's because many people have made this mistake. Okay, Rabbi say, okay. Akapanim. So therefore, you can only make the food. You can only cook the food from Friday to Shabbos. Why it's like that? Goes back into the timing. We'll see later on. It's first in Shulchan Aruch like that. So somebody asked me a very interesting shayla. He asked me like this. He was putting down on Friday for Shabbos, like we spoke about. Very interesting. He was putting down on Friday for Shabbos. Let's say, he's putting up the meat and whatever, all the things on Friday for Shabbos. Now watch this, Rabbi say. I see it's choppy, but my voice is not choppy. Is that correct? Correct? My voice isn't choppy, right? Even my voice is choppy? Even the voice is beautiful, right? Rabbi Schlisselfeld, use a Q-tip. Use a Q-tip. That'll get the voice working, Bez Hashem. Balkopanim, when it comes to this Jew, he was doing from Friday to Shabbos. Now, he put on the food. Listen to this Maisa. He goes to the food and he sees, you know what? The food is going to burn. The food is going to burn, right? He saw that it was getting too hot. He was putting it on, and he only had one type of a fire, and he was going to shul, and his wife was by the shviger, and the mela. He had to keep the food on the fire, basically on a hot plate, not a hot plate, excuse me, on a blech, and he wanted to know. He asked me a shot after Yontif. He wanted to know, is a big Talmud Chacham, it's a Talmud Chacham Dikashaylo. He wanted to know, am I allowed to put down the fire on Friday for Shabbos? It's a geschmack shaila. Rabbi Slansky never heard this shaila from me because I never heard it myself. It's a very geschmack shaila. I did hear the shaila because I see over here that I'd asked the shaila to Rabbi Yashiv, but at the time I never remembered the shaila. Why is it a geschmack shaila? Because think about it, Rabbi Isai. According to Rabbi, what's the reason why we're allowed to cook on a deraisa level from Friday to Shabbos? The reason we said on the deraisa level is because maybe orchim will come. Rabbi Isai, think about it. When I'm cooking on Friday for Shabbos, so you have to take care of the deraisa and the derabanan. The derabanan I have an erev tafshilin. The deraisa lefi Rabba is because guests might come. Rabbi Isai, that what you're putting down a fire is for the guests? No, it's not going to burn if the guests would come in the next 20 minutes before Shkia. It's only going to burn if you leave it on for Shabbos, which is in an hour from now. So there, you lost Rabba. Shema kecheshbon, no, everybody say. You lost Rabba. Rabba says that the reason why you're allowed to cook from Friday to Shabbos is because you're really cooking for Friday, because guests might come on Friday. But Rabbi said, when I'm putting down a fire, so what am I putting down the fire for? I'm putting down the fire for the Yom Tov guests. Okay, so maybe if you did 2 hours ago, whatever. But this case that he was talking about, you put down the fire 20 minutes before Shkia. So why are you doing it? If the guests would come now, it would be piping hot. They would be in Simcha zone. The reason why you're putting down the fire is because of Shabbos. So besides, then you lost the hoyo. Isn't that a geschmack cheshbon? If you don't like that cheshbon, you're a guy, an ugly one. No, that's a really, really geschmack cheshbon. I liked it. So it was a shaila of a Talmud Chacham. So I looked into it, and listen, you know, it's mitzad the fact that when you have on Yom Tov, we spoke out when we learned Hilchos Yom Tov back in the days of Pesach. So we spoke out that when you have putting down a fire in general, we said there was a makom to be mekel. If you remember, Rav Moshe was mekel on putting down a fire in Yom Tov. That was the cheshbon. But that's mitzad here. But mitzad our cheshbon over here, the chayra, it should be a little bit of a problem. L'chayra. That's I'm thinking now. L'chayra. I had written down that I asked this shaila to Rabbi Yashiv, and Rabbi Yashiv said it's awesome. Myself, is there a limit schos? Well, we had already a limit schos. The Aruch HaShulchan is mekel on the sheet of Reb Chizda. So that would be a limit schos. So if a person tells me my thing is going to burn, you know, I'll tell him, okay, listen, if your thing is going to burn, obviously you should try to look for a different eitzah. Like, you know, moving it into a different place on the blech or something like that. But I mean, you want to know if somebody could be saimich on Reb Chizda? I guess, because over here, what's he doing when he's doing kibui? He's doing a malacha shein tzrich legufa, which is a drabanan anyways. And since it's a drabanan, so when a drabanan, maybe you could be saimich on the sheet of Reb Chizda, that Reb Chizda held sorchei Shabbos or nasa b'yontif. But Rabbi say it's a chiddush. It's a chiddush. L'chatchila we try to get Rabbi's shita, and it's only b'shatz tzchak that you're able to be saimich on this. Now, is Rabbi saying, no, it's not a kasha wire of Yash's machar. Rabbi Yash is telling you have to l'chatchila be machmer on this cheshbon. Right? Why is that sure? Certainly l'chatchila you have to be machmer on this cheshbon. Mishnah Berurah also says l'chatchila is supposed to be machmer on this cheshbon. So l'chatchila you have to be machmer on this cheshbon. Right? Now, it's so interesting. It looks like we're underwater. Today the internet is very bad. Okay. You guys have bad Kallus? Or no? The shraga is okay? What's going on over there? Well, it's interesting. Until you came, Morty, everything was fine. Now, boy, say next, Mishnah Berurah over here in Sivan and Dalid, the Mishnah Berurah says that when you have the woman is mekabel yontif, and then she remembers givald, she already would lit the candles. We hold me'ikar din, if you just mekabel the yontif, you could still make an erev tafshilin, the Mishnah Berurah says. If you daven ma'ariv, game over. Now it's already too much of a kabbalah, and you can't make an erev tafshilin because that's called a kabbalah of the tzibur. I don't know if it means you daven ma'ariv by yourself. That's a god shaila. The shaila is, which is very negative today. But what happens like this, which is a very common case? Your wife lit hadlakas neiris. She lit the candles, and with hadlakas neiris, she was mekabel Shabbos. So now, Yontif, excuse me. And she had forgotten to make an erev tafshilin. So do we say that hadlakas neiris is like a kabbalah of the tzibur, And since it's a Kabbalah of the Tzibur, she's no longer allowed to make an Erev Tafshilin. That's one side. Or do we say that no, Adlakas Neiris, since on Yontif, everybody lights at different times. Some ladies light at night, some ladies light before night. So therefore, it has the din of a Kabbalah's Yochid. And therefore, a Kabbalah's Yochid, you're still allowed to make an Erev Tafshilin. This is a big suffix in the Mishabura. And B'di'eved, it's a very shver shaila, especially because today the ladies make also Shechiyanu. And you got to make sure to really not get into this shaila and to try to remember to make the Erev Tafshilin beforehand. The B'di'eved will probably be Saimech. Certainly B'di'eved will be Saimech that she could tell somebody else to do the Erev Tafshilin for her. Now, Beisai, let me get weiter. What happens? You went to shul and you had forgotten Erev Tafshilin. And, your wife is sleeping and she also forgot Erev Tafshilin, right? Or you're not married. And now you're in shul and there you are in the middle of Mincha. And you remember, of course, in the middle of Atachainin L'Adam Das, you remember Erev Tafshilin, okay? Now, by the time you finish Mincha, it's already, let's say, like already basically Shkia, which we said you could still do an Erev Tafshilin, even with the bracha. But if you're going to have to go all the way home, by the time you're going to get home, it's going to be already after Ben Hashmashis, this, that, and whatever. So is there any Eitzah? So the Mishabura sounds like there's not such a Gevaldik Eitz over here. He starts getting involved in being maknid your kemach to other people. It's a whole story over here, Rabbi. But Masha'en Kain, it's very interesting. The Teferes Yisrael on the Mishnayos in Beya, in Perek Beis, he brings down a very, very big chiddush. Mishabura is by us in Sivkot and Dalit. But the Teferes Yisrael is an Eitzah. He says, stand in shul and think to yourself, I'm setting aside a matzah, an egg, whatever you're setting aside. And then says the Teferes Yisrael, you can make a bracha, you hear this Maisa, right? And you'll say, with the pas and the tav shel shekechena, when I come to my house, you say, when I come to my house, I'll pick up that bread and I'll pick up that egg. And with this, I want to make an Erev Tafshilin now, and you can make a bracha. Because he says, what's the whole issue? You don't know which egg, you don't know which piece of chicken, you don't know which matzah. He says, who cares? He says, Breira under Abanon. And that's the Eitzah. Now, this is something that the Marsham was not so happy about. The Marsham and Chelik Beis and Sivan Vav were screaming about this. But Al Kapanim, B'di'eved, what do? There's such a big shaila. Maybe B'shatz Tzchak, it could be Seimich on the Teferes Yisrael. Others say, no, you have to be holding there if Tafshilin has to at least be in front of you. If I say, I don't know. Just make sure you remember. If it comes to this point, we'll see in a moment, there might be an eitzah of being Seimich on the Rav. Anyways, I don't know if I'd be Seimich on the Teferes Yisrael to go and make a bracha. Next, when it comes to making an Erev Tafshilin Shulchan Aruch Beis, this Erev we make with pas and a tavshel. However, if b'di'eved all you did was the tavshel, b'di'eved it's okay. If all you did b'di'eved was the bread, it doesn't work b'di'eved. If you put out, you need both because we want the Mila and the Kavod Shabbos, etc. But if all you did was you put out the tavshel b'di'eved, your Erev Tafshilin worked. If all you did was you put out the bread, b'di'eved, your Erev Tafshilin does not work. Now I see it's at 43 minutes, and I'm going to go into overdrive now. I'm probably not going to look at any questions because I want to try and finish Erev Tafshilin. So be moichel me. If there's any questions, I'll try and look at them afterward. Right, Rabbi Katzman, how much time do I have theoretically if I want to go a few minutes overtime so I could pace myself? This is stretching time, Rabbi Isai. Okay, so Rabbi Isai, hold on. I have about 27 minutes, and I'm going to use all of them probably. So hold on, and good luck. Now, Rabbi Isai, when it comes to Erev Tafshilin, there's an Indian, says the Mishabura, to dafka take something that was made lishma for the purpose of the Erev Tafshilin. It's not so practical by the bread because most people take a matzah, but the Rabbi said people think it's like exeris akasiv a matzah. It's not exeris akasiv. You're allowed to make a roll for the purpose of Erev Tafshilin. As a matter of fact, it's a very nice thing to do because you made it lishma specifically for that purpose. That's number one. Number two is, Rabbi Yisai, Grada, you're probably allowed to take like a rogalach also, because it's something that you can be kaveh sud on, Pashtus, I don't see why you wouldn't be able to take something that you're theoretically able to be kaveh sudan. Lechatchila, it's supposed to be a kebeya, the size of a kebeya. Kebeya is not so big, but the evidence it has to be the size of a kezayis. Like I mentioned, we lechatchila do it dafka on Erev Yantif, and lechatchila is an Indian to be making it specifically on Erev Yantif for that purpose. Now, Rabbi say, you can't be shoyal on an Erev Tavshilin. You're probably wondering, what kind of weird thing is that? Who would be shoyal on his Erev Tavshilin? So I'll tell you a Maisa Shaya, very interesting Maisa. There was a Jew that accidentally, for Erev Tavshilin, set aside his matzahs mitzvah. He had the 3 matzahs that he made, right? This Shlamazel went and made these special matzahs, and he said, hey, got a great idea. Why would I just use the matzah for Seder night when I can get another mitzvah with it and I'll use it for my Erev Tavshilim? Einstein. Moirdik, do you know what this guy just did? He just made it that you can't eat, if he's going to eat it, when was Pesach this year? It was Wednesday night, right? So what did this Shlemuger do? He Wednesday night had his matzah. You can't eat the matzah. You can't eat that matzah. What do you mean? That matzah is supposed to be there at the time when you want to cook for Shabbos, which is what? Friday. So you can't eat the matzah on Leil Seder. So this person put a matzah, set it aside with the greatest of intentions. Why shouldn't I get another mitzvah with the matzah? And I'll also use it for matzah's mitzvah and also for the Erev Tavshil. If I say you also can't use that matzah for lulav, and you also shouldn't light the Ner Chanukah with that matzah, this would be a problem. So this person asked the Shaila. Listen to the Shaila that he asked. I heard the Shaila after, this a few years ago. I heard the Shaila after Yantiv. He asked a Rav, are you allowed to be shoyal on the Erev Tavshilin? Right? So I don't know if he asked that Shaila to the Rav, but that was the Shaila that the Rav declared. If I say, Erev Tavshilin is not a neder. Erev Tavshilin is not some Erev Tavshilin is a din d'rabbanan. You went to him saying, that's it. Once you set aside this matzah for the Erev Tavshilin, now she's an Erev Tavshilin dicker. And now you're not allowed to go. Now you get involved in a little bit of an evil shaila. I mentioned before that technically to be Yotzei Erev Tavshilin, it's enough if you have just the tavshil and not the matzah, right? We mentioned before. We said that if you have just the matzah, you're not Yotzei Erev Tavshilin. If you have just the tavshil, you are Yotzei Erev Tavshilin. So what happens if by Friday I only have the tavshil, you're Yotzei Erev Tavshilin? But that's a little bit evil. If in the Takana you made a bracha on the matzah and on so first of all, I believe Lieberman's asking me, can I make a new one? The answer is no, because you just made a bracha already on this Erev Tavshilin. So you can't go and make another Erev Tavshilin. She's already made a bracha on this Erev Tavshilin. Maybe some brave Rav will come along and say, well, if I don't have the matzah anyways, I have an Erev Tavshilin. So maybe I can go and take this matzah. But that's a little bit evil in my opinion. And I would have told this person to go and get another matzah for the matzah's mitzvah. People think that you're supposed to take an egg, it's exeris hakasiv, and if you don't take an egg, you are bilam arasha. It's the reason why they used to take eggs in the time, I guess, of the doors closer to Sinai, is because in those days, no fancy people with fridges, no fancy people. Who has a fridge, right? Over here in Yerushalayim, we still have ice boxes. And Mela, what's going to be with your egg? Your egg is something that could last outside of a fridge. An egg is something that could last for 3 days. Mashen came when it comes to a piece of chicken. So a piece of chicken, a normal schnitzel, you have to murder him on Friday in order to eat him the kavod yontif. Because if you're going to already make her on Wednesday and go and expect that it should be still good for Shabbat, come on. So the minig always was an egg, because an egg, is going to still be around on Friday at the time when I have to cook. And if you would have for the Erev Tavshilin something which will be niskalkel, and that by the time you're going to make the Erev Tavshilin, it's no longer going to be there. What's the difference if I lost it? What's the difference if I don't have it? What's the difference if it got ruined? So then you don't have an Erev Tavshilin at the time when you're supposed to cook, then you won't be able to cook for Yontif. So this is why they used to use an egg. However, today, there's really no reason. I always get nervous saying this because, you're going against the Kabbalah. But you might see, you look in the Paiskim and Fakert, it's mashma over here, that when it comes to Erev Tavshilin, you're supposed to be making something b'dafka, nice and chain. The Mishabura says you've gotten your alf kigoyin, basar, v'dogim, v'beya, sharmi to lift him. You're supposed to be making some type of a shein tafshel. So if a person wants to take a chveis like a polka, But you have to make sure a baisa that's got a kazayis of meat on it. You know, you got to make sure that it's got a nice amount of meat on it. You know, like from a goose or from like a duck or something like that. Back upon him, an egg, you could certainly use an egg, Rabbi Yisai. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying you don't have to use an egg, and it could be even more meshubach to use a piece of meat. And then make sure that that meat stays healthy and fresh until Friday at the point where you want to cook. The Shulchan Aruch over here in Sifei discusses, I'm going in order, sometimes I'm not mentioning. When it comes to vegetables, it seems to be that vegetables would be okay. I mean vegetables, I mean cooked vegetables, obviously. It seems to be that cooked vegetables, some of these things are a little bit of a shaila, because the question, it has to be a tavshel, which is malafis as a pas. L'chatchila, you use chicken, you use eggs, you use meat, you use things that it's a derech to go and put together with bread. Chicken, eggs, meat, things like that. That's what you're supposed to use. L'chatchila, certainly. There is a whole Shulchan Aruch here in Sifei. Are you allowed to use pickled items like tuna fish and things like that? You know, things that aren't cooked and whatever, right? Okay, actually, tuna is maybe a bad example. Maybe it is cooked. I go buy him the chatchila. Like I said, there's an Indian to go and cook it, bedavka anyways. Specifically, herring will be a nafkamines, right? But I go buy him the chatchila, go and cook it, especially on, let's say, Wednesday this year, actually Thursday, to go and cook it specifically on Thursday for the purpose of the Erev Tafshilin. There is an Indian, and then the Shulchan Aruch and Sivan talks about, like, you know, if you could use the schmaltz on the side of the knife to be saimich on that for an Erev Tafshilin, and he says you got to have a kesayis worth of schmaltz. I'm getting hungry just thinking about it, because this is not all the chatchila. Siv Zayin over here discusses the Indian of being saimich on the Erev Rav. What's it mean to be saimich on the Erev Rav? The Rav of the town, he makes an Erev, not just for himself, he makes it for all of Klal Yisrael. How does he do that? He gives we'll call it for now, for all intents and purposes, you know, the matzah and the egg, even though we saw now it has nothing to do with the matzah and egg, but upon him, he has the matzah, he has the egg, he gives it to someone who's not saimich on his shulchan, either a neighbor or you know, a child that doesn't live by him, or somebody, and he gives it to them, and they pick it up on behalf of everyone in the town. Now, that doesn't mean that everyone in the town can't make their own Erev Tafshilin. It just means that anyone who would want to be saimich on the Rav Bidi Eved, i.e., he was an onionist and he forgot, he's going to be allowed to be saimich on the Erev of the Rav. So the Erev Rav is mezakeh, the matzah, the egg, somebody else picks it up on his behalf, or you could do a kinyan sudar, which means that the other guy, he can give you his yarmulke, or some, you know, his like a scarf, or maybe a sack, right? And he'll give, well, like in Ross, you know, take off his shoe and his whatever. He'll give you his shoe, and then the Rav will take his shoe, and with that he'll be makneh. But it's very simple, just to give him the matzah and the egg. He picks it up, a tefach, on behalf of everyone in the town. And now the Rav will take it back. It's owned by everyone. And he will now say, with this, it'll be lahan sharin, and it makes the bracha for everyone. When could you be saimich on the Erev Rav? So the Pais can say, certainly you're not allowed to do this l'chatchila. I can't say, the Rav is making one. And it could be if you did, you're not even allowed to use it now. That's number one. Number two, if you're called a pesheya, you can't be saimich on the Erev Rav. Now, there's a Gemara that says a pesheya is an example of somebody that forgot twice in a row. The Aruch HaShulchan says that's just an example. But if we know the guy's not a pesheya and he had forgotten twice in a row because he was married to get busy and this and that and whatever, it's not a raya, it was a pesheya. Each case, the Rav will have to be kefeya if the person is considered a pesheya. If you forgot the first time, you're for sure not a pesheya. Right? If you forgot twice, we'll have to figure out, are you a pesheya or a taka? The guy just mamish forgot. What do you want, right? Another example, somebody could be saying on the Erev Rav is he made the Erev Tafshilin, and now lo and behold, where'd she go? Where in the world is she? Where is the Erev? Where'd the Erev go? Where'd the Erev go? Anybody see the Erev? Missing Erev? Anybody see the Erev? Where'd the Erev? But I'll go find him in such a case. The skalkel neva, that's for sure an example of a oinus, and the guy govna, we are saimich b'diavad on the Erev Rav. That brings us, Rabbi Isai, to a person that is going, this is an interesting shaila grada. What happens if Chalila, a person has to go to a hospital and he has to leave the tchum, he has to leave the tchum on Yontif. Very, I mean, it's not very negah, but it could be negah. he leaves the tchum, says Erev is over there, in the tchum over there. And now he had to leave. He had pikuach nefesh, whatever the case is. So now he can't cook because now he's in a place that he can't reach his Erev. The whole part of the Erev is I'm within the realm of my Erev. Okay, he has to, childbirth, these things, he has to go and, there are eitzes in Mitzvah Shem. I mean, the Shulchan Aruch, we'll see if we get there. But he has all these eitzes where you could be makneh your food to somebody else and he'll cook for you, etc., etc. Now, it's another issue, which I don't know, everybody said, I don't know. Over here in Sif Test, the whole issue, maybe you guys, maybe I'll just cause trouble for a minute. But there's a look over here that you have to be a moida in an Erev in order for the Erev to work for you. You have to believe in the Erev. You have to believe in the Erev in order for the Erev to work for you. Rabbi say, how does it work? Believe in the Erev means that you're not a Mechel Shabbos, right? How does it work that people go to these, I guess it's another reason why not to go to hotels, but you go to the hotel and they have over there, all those guys that are going off the derech on their way down, they become waiters. You know how it goes, right? That's how it goes. On the way down, they become a waiter, and then all these things, right? So let's say he's already there, he's off, right? And now he's like, he's already the head waiter. You know how it goes, right? So he's cooking for you. How's that work? Erev Tavshilin doesn't work for him. Erev Tavshilin, he's not a moed in the Erev, so he can't cook for you. Very interesting shayla, no? What do you say? I just started the shayla as I was giving the shir now. What do you say? No? Rabbi Silverman, what do you say? Rabbi Siegel? Interesting, no? Interesting shayla. I don't know. Okay, I don't want to cause trouble. You know me. It's not my style. Let me get right there. Now, the maisa, when you do the Erev Tavshilin, you're supposed to pick it up, the matzah, the egg, etc. Right? Okay, no, Rabbi Siegel, if he believes, I'm saying, that guy that says, I don't believe, that one. I'm talking about like, he's already the head waiter. I'm not talking about like, he cut off only one side. I'm talking about the guy that cut off both sides already. He's wearing the white, that black t-shirt, very, very tight and whatever, which kind of, right? Upon him, right, thank you. With the mohawk and the kitzer, Rabbi side, when it comes to the Erev, you're supposed to pick up Shulchan Aruch Sif Yud Beis, Chayzer v'Noitlo, you pick it up and you say the bracha, and you have to understand the words. With this, it should be mutter for me to bake and to do atmana and the shule. All these words already. Laduke shraga, right, to light the candle, and you'll make the bracha. If you forgot to make a bracha, b'di'evet it works, and now you can't make the bracha. So don't forget the bracha. It is important that your wife should be there b'shas that you're doing the Erev Tavshilin, because she's going to be the one who's going to be cooking, and therefore there is a mila. If she wasn't there, of course, it does work for anyone who is considered a member of this household. Now, the maisa, there's an Indian, the Shulchan Aruch brings down in Sif Tes Vav, that the person, he has to make sure that the Erev, like we said, lasts until Friday, when at the time of the cooking, at least the kazayis remains of it. And then there's an Indian to go and use that Erev for a different mitzvah. So you're supposed to make lechem mishnah with it. And not only that, Rabbi say, people think just make lechem mishnah and eat it on Friday night. Why? You get a bunch of mitzvahs. Friday night, Shabbos day, shalosh shudas, you can go and eat it. And you could also have the egg shalosh shudas. Gesund to hate. Now, what's the din of someone who is coming to your house, who is, let's say, your daughter who's married and she's coming to your house or something like that? So do they have to make an Erev Tavshilin? Pashtus, the Minig Yisrael is that they don't make an Erev Tavshilin. The Shulchan Aruch and Mishabur Sivkat Nun Vav, Mishabur says about Ishtor b'nei Beis Shel Adam, the children and the wife are all bottled to the Erev Tavshilin. The shaila is, what about children that are coming to their parents' house and they're going to be there the whole yontif, very normal case, guests that are going to be there the whole entire time, and that the only thing they're doing is lighting candles. This is a very big suffix. The minig pashut is that you make one Erev Tavshilin for the house and you don't do more than that. If you want to be machmir, this is what I'm going to tell my son-in-law tomorrow night. I'm going to tell him to pick up the Erev Tavshilin and to be kind of chelik of it, and then, he'll give it back to me, I hope. And then I will, anyways, I want him to pick it up on behalf, because I'm the Rav in the neighborhood here. So I'm going to tell him, pick it up on behalf of everybody in the neighborhood and also on behalf of yourself. Klape, the people in the neighborhood, they shouldn't be Saimech on Lechatchila. But him, that he's in the household, and Be'etzim, he's Pashtis Yaitse anyways, so then he's allowed to do it Lechatchila. So what you do is that if you're going to your parents or your in-laws or whatever, so there is an Indian Lechatchila that they should, on behalf, that they should pick, you should have a chelik and they should make a kinyan there of Tafshilin. If b'diavad you didn't, you certainly could be Saimech on the air of Tafshilin that was made in the house. Now that Rabbi say, Pachazi Yeser, in a nutshell, is the Seder after Shilin. Let me just make a sikum first of all, and then maybe I'll take some questions. Even I see we finished with a little bit of time, but let me just make a quick sikum. How to do Erev Tashilin. First of all, this is more the lechatchilas and the hidurim, basically, right? The first thing is lechatchila to be doing it on Erev Yontif. Don't do it on Wednesday. Don't do it on. Don't do it today. Don't forget to do it. Don't do it after Shkia, right? The lechatchila is remember to do it on Erev Yontif. That's number one. Number two, and try obviously be makbid before your wife lights candles because you don't want to get into that shaila. The tavshel lechatchila should be made bedafka for the purpose of the erev tafshilin. There's an Indian to dafka make that chicken or that whatever specifically for the erev tafshilin. You should take a minach choshev. It should be preferably a dead cow. That's for sure considered a murdered some murdered livestock or something. That's for sure considered the covet, the yontif, to take something which is made specifically. It could be a chashed of fish, right? Some murdered flounder or something. Avada works an egg. Derech Agav, somebody once came to me with interesting shaila. He had an egg, right? Rabbi Gewurtz, you remember the shaila? He may put aside an egg for the Erev Tafshilin, and he accidentally had peeled it, right? Why did he peel it? I don't know. Upon him, there he had this egg in the fridge, for like a day and a half and whatever, and it was without its shell, a naked egg, the kitzer. There it was, this naked egg without its shell. And now he wants to know, an egg without a shell, what happened? Now he can't be saimech on it because he can't eat it because it has all that dreadful ruach ra. It has all that ruach ra. So beside now he doesn't have an erev tafshilin. No, it was overnight without a shell, Rabbi Yisai. So I tell you an interesting chiddush that at the time I wanted to say. Look, in my mind, I knew anyways, b'diavad. No. In this case, it doesn't work in a bag. No. It doesn't work in a fridge. Rabbi Bolzan, what are you causing trouble for? What's going on here? It doesn't work. This is ruach ra. Ruach ra goes through fridges. Ruach ra goes through bags. Right? Come on, Rabbi Yisai. You guys got used to Corona, already with the alcohol gel and all that stuff, So you can understand how the ruach ra works also. Ruach ra doesn't get scared off by a bag. Right? Rabbi Yisai, I could see straight through this glass. So eyesight doesn't get blocked by glass. Ruach ra doesn't get blocked by a fridge. So Akopanim, when it comes over here, so I wanted to say a chiddush because I knew in the back of my mind anyways he could be saying on the Rav because he's an oinus. So I wanted to say a chiddush. Nobody said it so far. No, if somebody says it, I'll give him something special. I have a hammer on the table today. All right. So if anybody says it, maybe I'll give him the hammer. If I had a hammer. Oh, Rabbi Bolzan, you got it. Rabbi Bolzan got it. Very good. He says, it's a mitzvah egg. Maybe the Ruach Ra only goes, here you go. If I had a hammer, maybe the Ruach Ra only works on something that's not a mitzvah, but on a mitzvah, shoymed mitzvah la yedid davara. Maybe when the Ruach Ra comes to the egg and he sees the kedusha of the mitzvah, he runs away. He's screaming, he runs away screaming when he sees the egg, no? It's a good idea. I was Mako because anyways, in the end of my mind, I knew anyways that he has the Rav to be Saimech on anyways. Upon him, the bread has to be, of course, the chatchila should be the size of a kebeya. The chatchila, to actually eat that egg, I don't know. That's a good question. Are you going to go and eat that egg based on my svara? You're going to find out tomorrow. The guy grew like a third ear over here. Man, I don't know if I would take that chance. That far, I don't know. Upon him, you pick up the egg and the matzah or the chicken and the matzah, and you pick it up in your hand and you say, and then right away, as you're holding it, you say, it should be mutter to me to bake, to cook, and to do atmana, uladluke shraga, and you're all going to have tremendous kavanah when you say that. And any achana that I do, Rabbi say, included in this is also the achana from, even if I want to do achanas from Friday to Shabbos. One of the examples is, according to some poskim, you're going to be allowed to mish the Sefer Torah from Friday to Shabbos, because now anything that you're doing on Friday for Shabbos is mutter when it comes, once you have an Erev Tavshilin. It's right that the wife should be there at the time. It's right that if you have guests, that there should be zeicha and a chelik of it also in order to get out of the shiloh, but the it works even if they did not. The Rav of the town, or the Talmud Chacham, he should be mizakid on behalf of everybody else, right? And if a person forgot to make the bracha b'di'evid, it works. And akapanim, it's a mitzvah, yikara, na'oid. So you make sure that when Shabbos comes, you take that matzah and you eat it after you used it for the shalosh sudas, also for all the sudas, put it down as the lechem mishnah, and then you eat that polka, right? That murdered goose or whatever that you put aside, right? And you were Makayim a mitzvah, that the first Jew was Makayim. Avraham Avinu was Makayim Erev Tavshilin. So you make sure, Baisai, you figure out a way like the eights we got today. Someone said, all right, so even I'll just make the tea cents I'll make, just a be that I can get the mitzvah there of Tavshilin and Kaddish Yomer Lai. You make that mitzvah with Gevaldik Kavana. And when you say Adluke Shraga, you could think about me, but that's not pshat in the halacha. It means to light the candles, but you could think about me because I'll be thinking about all of you. And if it's Hashem, we'll get back together again tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to learn Siman Tov Tzadi Dalid. We're going to learn Siman Tov Tzadi Dalid. And I see some questions over here. There's a lot of questions over here, but tomorrow's Tov Tzadi Dalid. Everybody say no games. Tomorrow's Hilchos Shavuos, and then we're making a siyum on the Chelik Hay of the Mishnah Berurah, something that we started 9 weeks ago with Siyata Dishma. What's that 9 weeks ago? It's been 10 weeks already. Oh my goodness, I've been looking at you guys through a computer for 10 weeks. Oh my goodness. Akapanim, 10 weeks. Oh my goodness. Akapanim, I love Luke Shraga. So, Bez Hashem, tomorrow we make the big siyum. Everybody make sure to get party hats, right? Make sure you get the ones, the beanie looking ones, get party hats and the blowers. What are those things called? Tokay, what are those things called with that have the thing that go like this and like that? I forgot what they're called. Kids, to make sure tomorrow, party hats, blowers, bring the children, right? And we're going to have banjos and also accordions, Amir Tashem, right? Rabbi Bolzim, make sure you come to pick up your hammer. I love you all, Rabbi Isai, and I miss you all. And 10 weeks we've been like this, Rabbi Isai. It's already time to do tshuva. I don't know which one of you it is, but you better do tshuva already. Yeah, we have to have a kids shir also, I think. No, it's true. And Rabbi Dakin, you just had a baby, so we have to have a kids shir, no? All right, I guess check the emails, and we have to do a kids shir, no? Rabbi Elbaz, I think we got to do a kids shir, no? I think so also. All right. Oh my goodness. I think Danny's gonna have to leave now, by say, I love you all. All right. Who wasn't invited to the last one? Of course you were invited to the last one. All right. No, of course we're having a party. What do you mean we're having a party? I told you, make sure you get the hats and those things. I forgot what they're called, but you go, and the thing comes out like that, and then it goes back. Make sure tomorrow, because we're going to make a siyum on the Chelik Hay, the Mishnah Berurah, something that was learned with so much Mesiras Nefesh and so much Simchas Nefesh, so much Geschmack, Rabbi say. So much Geschmack, so much Geschmack. What do you say? No, fishy, what's das? Simchas, no? Rabbi say, it's going to be a Zas Simcha. Tov Tzadi Dal. Make sure you see the Siman Tov Kol Chav Zayin. It's only Rabbi say 24 Simanim. I think you should be able to do it. It's only 89 Sivkatins in the Mishnah Berurah. And then make sure that you also see Tov Tzadi Dal tomorrow for Hilchos Shavuos. And I'll try to go into all the Yonim of Hilchos Shavuos. I love you all. When it came to, we're going to still go over Bishul. Don't worry. I haven't forgotten. Bishul Sunday comes. Klape, if we're getting back together, look out for the emails. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten. And Bez Hashem, whoever's in Eretz Yisrael, who knows, maybe someday we'll be together again. But whatever it is, I love you all. And I miss you all. Adluke Shraga. Adluke Shraga. Adluke Shraga.